And then Pale Snow. I sort of felt this was it's sort of one of my favourite Suede songs, and I think my favourite one on Bloodsports is Sometimes I Feel I'll Float Away. It feels like a kind of continuation of that style of Suede songwriting, which actually felt like quite a new sort of Suede song. Maybe that song. Is that a fair?
Pale Snow is such a weird one because I am really genuinely fond of it, but it's not. It came about in a strange way. It came about by putting two bits of different songs together, and it was this happy accident that it kind of worked. There was a verse of something we liked, and there was an end of something else that we liked, and we put it together, and it kind of worked, and it created this piece. And it's not because of that. It has a quality that it's not the sort of song that you'd sort of sit down on a guitar or a piano and write. It just has a strange shift that makes it work. And we were seeing it as not so much a song in its own right, but almost like as a link piece, as a prelude to another song. And that was the mindset that we got into in making this record, that it wasn't just very different from the Bloodsports mindset where we were trying to write 10 killer tunes. With this, it was much more about the album being less than some of its parts kind of thing, and more than some of its parts. Do you know what I mean? It was about the complete thing. So you could have things like Pale Snow, which individually, if you take it as a song, it's a slightly odd, kind of unsettling experience. When it kind of works.
It wouldn't be something you'd write, would it?
It doesn't repeat after about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
None of the chord sequence repeats. It's really odd. I think it has that nice thing that it's not immediate because of that. Because there's nothing for your mind to kind of like hook onto. You have to hear it a few times, and that's like a lot of these things on this record. You hear it like the third or the fourth time, and so suddenly you hear it as a whole thing. It's kind of, it's beautiful. But the first time, it must be quite strange.
It's actually interesting because it's sort of almost pure atmosphere, the second half, isn't it? It's not really melody, and normally Suede, the way that we work, kind of like as songwriters, is writing melody, and it's just an atmosphere with a kind of a vocal sitting over top of it. So it's kind of a new territory for us, I think, in those terms.
And the other thing that it made me think of was Europe Is Our Playground, and I've always been hoping you'd do more of that sort of thing. More synths.
It's the biggest Moog since then, isn't it, basically? It's that Moog bass in the second half.
Was that sort of Neil, was that your doing all the synth work pretty much?
Well, I remember when we were writing the second half, where it goes all synthy, and we were writing it at yours, Ed, and I was just kind of, Matt's right, it doesn't repeat, it's just a load of chords that kind of meander around, and I remember Ed standing over me going, can't you just pick 4 chords and loop those? And it's like, it was a kind of deliberate attempt just to have this kind of cinematic thing that kind of just meandered around for a bit. So yeah, it was quite a deliberate thing just to, there's a couple of pieces on the record, I think, Learning to Be is another one, and When You Were Young, where they're kind of like cut and shuts of other bits of songs that kind of we put together. And it kind of lends itself to that kind of the cinematic nature of the record, and
but we definitely wouldn't have done that on the last record.
No, not at all.
You know what I
mean, they only work as link pieces.
Yeah.
They only work.
The whole approach on Bloodsports was different because it was an attempt to write a classic Suede record made up of 10 tracks.
Yeah, and a restatement of, if you haven't heard this band before, this is what we sound like, kind of thing.
So the formula was, in a way, very constricting, and we had to approach it that way, and it works as a record as a result of it. Whereas when we started this record off, it was like, well, we don't have to do verse, chorus, middle 8, choruses, fade. We can have bit A, bit B, followed by bit C. So I think we knew that going into it, but there are still many happy accidents as a result of editing and moving things around. Or Brett would come up with a bit and you go, well, I've come up with this bit, I don't like the next bit, can we get rid of it? And then I got this bit for the end. And we'd listen to it and go, well, actually that works much better than what we've got. So we'll cut out the middle bit and stick the two together. So there's a lot of that going on.
It must have been quite exciting.
It was. It was great.
Very exciting, actually, because you just go, well, we've got a minute here and we don't know what to do with it. So you just throw the kitchen sink at it and you just get this kind of weird soundscapes that kind of suddenly... just arrive for a short bit of the album, then disappear and then come back. So it's kind of.
I mean, the first 3 months were the most fun I think I've ever had making a Suede record. Were the first 3 months around at my house, because it was just, you know, the three of them would come round every day, and it would just be pure creativity, and there would be no concern really. You know, whereas Bloodsports, there was concern from day one.
Was that the same for you as well? That it was.
Bloodsports was the least fun you've ever had making a record. Yeah.
I also think that, I think it might be my favourite point with the film and music working together is the whole of Pale Snow. Yeah. It's so weird. For the first 30 seconds you have no idea whether it's a snowscape or a drowned city, or as it turns out, a fish tank. And it's one of those things. It's so beautiful and it's so unlikely, and it's so the last thing you would do as a video. You know what I mean? Imagine a video treatment that says, for this song, the first 30 seconds will be a static shot of a fish tank gradually pulling back to reveal a city behind it, and then some people look at a video recorder. It's just, it's lovely. And it's one of those ones that now when I hear the track, it's indelibly kind of linked to it. The colour of it and the slowness of it are totally, they're part of the song for me now. I think it works really well.
And when it cuts to the second half
Yeah.
and she's sitting on the bed, it's a beautiful, beautiful shot. I love that shot. It's just so, it's so sad. It's hard.
Pale Snow, for you, I was saying, it feels like a very pivotal scene. It's a very moving scene. How did you sort of decide on the narrative and where certain things would happen and so on?
I think, to be honest, in terms of where things happened, I actually wanted to keep it as fluid as possible. I didn't want it to be, you know, I didn't want the narrative to be linear unless it happened to fall that way. It was really just trying to think of the best things, that work with the song. You know, doing something that has no words is actually, on paper it sounds sort of mildly challenging, and then in reality it's extremely challenging to try and convey, you know, everything that we had to try and get across without any spoken words.
It's got to be very physical, hasn't it?
Yeah, and the actors
to make a 50-minute. This is a huge. It's what I thought about a lot. How do you make a 50-minute film that doesn't have any dialogue? You know, it's a huge thing. So therefore, and of course, there's no narrative, and that was the one thing that we had a lot of discussion about because obviously the script we worked on very carefully, and there was a point for me where I felt the script was being followed too slavishly, and I thought that it's just not going to come across at certain points. And I think when you're very aware of exactly what the script is, us as an inner group of people, we were aware of the script, but I wasn't convinced that it was going to translate to people beyond that circle.
When we actually ended up shooting, and we had the script, and in reality there were quite a lot of moments that just didn't feel right. So we kind of not made them up, but I had to kind of make decisions on the day or the day before, or to shift things. I think I always probably would have erred on the side of slightly more obtuse with the narrative, and I think the script at one stage was too literal and too easy and obvious to follow. So I kind of wrestled it back a little bit to the place it should have been.